Now you open this show with Lamar Jackson to the Jets. All right, let's just go through this quickly as to what it would cost the Jets to acquire Lamar Jackson, and whether or not it makes sense.
Makes a ton of sense.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. So let's go through it. Mm-hmm. So to me, I would not do that here right now. Because I think you have to be honest with yourself about what type of offense are you running. Now, they don't have an offensive coordinator, so that's the one thing.
That's a nice check mark in my argument.
They can bring in a new offensive coordinator to tailor an offense to get the most out of Lamar Jackson.
Yes.
Lamar Jackson is an electrifying player. Lamar Jackson is electrifying in the eyes of the players in the league. Players in the league love him. They know that he's embroiled in his contract standoff with the Baltimore Ravens. Everybody in the league wants him to be paid. They think that he deserves to be paid. And you got to remember, he thinks he deserves to be paid more than what the Cleveland Browns have given Deshaun Watson. So that contract was just an unbelievable contract, and the Cleveland Browns had to basically bribe Deshaun Watson to accept a trade to their team.
Yeah.
Okay, so and that was for $230 million guaranteed, all of it guaranteed. It was a record-setting and precedent-setting contract. I don't particularly care for the guy who got the contract, but that contract we've never seen before. Steve Bisciotti, the owner of the Ravens, at the time of that contract when it was signed, said this is going to make it really difficult for the rest of us around the league, because he knew that he was in negotiations with his MVP quarterback, something Deshaun Watson hasn't won, but Lamar Jackson has. So in order to get Lamar Jackson from the Baltimore Ravens in a trade, this is how I think it would have to happen. The Ravens would have to put the exclusive franchise tag on Lamar Jackson, and that would slow things down.
Right, and that is something that he would have to sign.
Eventually,
if he wanted to be on another team. Because you cannot, if that is out there, we saw it with Le'Veon Bell, if that is out there and you don't sign it, I mean, basically
after a certain time. So just let me finish.
Right.
So if they put the exclusive franchise tag on Lamar Jackson, which means somewhere about $34 million,
sure,
would be guaranteed for him next year if he signs that. Now, he's not going to sign it the moment that they do this. And I think they have until like March 7th to do this. And they can negotiate with him now because he's their own player. But they have until March 7th to do this. If they put that franchise tag on him, then they can continue to go through the contract negotiations with him, or they can allow him to see if he can get a trade done, because they'll have trade parameters, to another team. And if those trade parameters are met, then there is a chance that the Ravens would accept the trade. But then Lamar and his agent would have to negotiate the long-term contract extension with said new team. In this case, you're talking about the Jets. So it's going to be a ton of money, and it is going to be a ton of draft picks. Remember, Deshaun Watson got 3 first-round picks from the Cleveland Browns, and 2 fourth-round picks and a third-round pick. I believe that's what the entire compensation was. And, that is a ton. And I know that Lamar is, an exciting player, but then you have to think about, if you bring him here, what is he doing to the players that are already on the field that are part of the Jets?
All right, so first off, the reason why the Texans did this, and of course we thought it was stupid because of what Deshaun Watson had gone through, and it was just crazy that they broke the bank and then broke all the rules with that particular player because he had been suspended and everything else. But the reason they did that was because the Cleveland Browns have had the biggest problem at that position, probably even more than the Jets, in the history of the NFL. They can't get it right. And the owners out there, the coaches out there, the fans out there, they have had it, and they saw an opportunity to get a guy that they believe was going to be a franchise quarterback for over a decade, and they said, we have to do this. Enough is enough with the Cleveland Browns and the quarterback situation. So that's why I'm thinking the Jets have the same mentality. Now, Lamar Jackson is a much better guy than Deshaun Watson is too, and he has an MVP under his belt, and this is why I think that the Jets are going to seriously consider it. And yes, it's a haul, and yes, it's a lot of money. As I mentioned to you at the end of the Jets season, there will come a point in this offseason where Rob Saleh and Joe Douglas are going to be sitting together, and they're going to know that this season will determine their futures, this upcoming season in 2023. And they're going to look at the roster and say, are we really going to put our livelihood, our jobs, our future on the line and have Zach Wilson driving our bus?
No, of course not. But here's the thing. Joe Douglas knows very well all about Lamar Jackson because remember, Joe Douglas was in Baltimore, then went to Philadelphia. So he's tied into all of this. So
absolutely.
Nobody knows Lamar Jackson better than Joe Douglas. Nobody. And if he wanted to go for this, Woody Johnson would go for it. Woody Johnson would definitely go for it. And the trade, they can make it happen. If, in fact, Baltimore wants to keep him in the AFC, that's the other thing.
That's right.
Now, Houston didn't care. Houston sent him to an AFC team, but they just were looking at the compensation coming back to them. What was in the best interest of the Houston Texans? And it turned out that they overpaid in order to get Deshaun on both sides of it. I think they overpaid in terms of compensation for Deshaun Watson, and they overpaid in terms of the contract that they gave Deshaun Watson, and that is desperation. There's no question about that. So here's the thing. First I would say this. Who are they bringing in as an offensive coordinator? That's my first question.
So I do think if Lamar leaves, that means that what Greg Roman has been doing and working with him might not be the direction that the Ravens want to go any longer. And maybe Greg Roman
comes with him.
I do think that is a certain possibility. Now, as far as other names that could work out with Lamar Jackson, there's got to be other guys out there. There's a million candidates. There's people who know how to run offenses that are certainly can tailor to Lamar Jackson. But without a doubt, they're going to have to pair him with an offensive coordinator that gets the best out of him. Everybody would believe that. You can't put him in the same offense that you would put Justin Herbert in. So there's just no way.
So here's the other thing. Lamar Jackson has missed 10 games over the last 2 years. He played 12 last year. He played 12 this year.
Right.
So there's the injury proponent as well. Now, I did a little comparison. And the comparison I did is to a guy that was drafted in his draft, plays very similar to the way that he plays, and has been extremely successful like Lamar, although he hasn't gotten an MVP. And that's the great Josh Allen for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
So when I look at Josh Allen and I look at Lamar Jackson from 2018 when they came in the league to 2022, Josh Allen has played 77 games. Lamar Jackson has played 70 games. Josh Allen is 52-24-0. Lamar Jackson is 45-16-0. He's only lost 16 games,
which is incredible.
It's an incredible number. Lamar completes a little bit more, a better completion percentage. He's got about a 1% completion advantage, is 63.5 to 62.5. But of course, Josh Allen throws for many more yards.
Yeah.
It was like 6,000 more yards. He's got 138 touchdown passes. Lamar's got 101. They both have a rating north of 90. Lamar has a rating of 96. They both run the ball exceptionally well. Lamar's ran for 4,400, and Josh's ran for about 3,100. So these guys are pretty much comparable when you look at their numbers and their success in the league. The playoff totals: Josh is 4-3, Lamar is 1-3. The numbers drop significantly for Lamar in the playoffs. He's got 3 touchdown passes and 5 interceptions.
Yeah, but that's a big problem with Lamar Jackson. There's no doubt about it.
Right,
Talking about Lamar Jackson, the playoff issue, that's a huge issue.
So my thing would be, okay, we'll give you the contract that maybe Josh Allen has, and I'm sure that's what Baltimore's looking at. They're looking at a comparable player from the same draft.
Yeah,
similar success, similar way that they play. Josh Allen is certainly the face of the Bills, and there's no question that Lamar Jackson is the face of the Baltimore Ravens. If I were Lamar, I would not want to leave Baltimore, and I know he probably feels slighted and ticked off and everything else. I would want to stay with John Harbaugh. I would want to stay with Greg Roman because they believe in you, man. Your team believes in you. Now, if you come here to New York, now you have to get to know new teammates. And I'm telling you, the wide receivers are not going to be overly happy with this.
Well, but they're also coming from a situation where they've dealt with Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, and Mike White, a hurt Mike White. That's what they're dealing with. I mean, Garrett Wilson was talking about Mike White like Mike White was Tom Brady. I mean, that's how unbelievable he felt when Mike White was the quarterback. Now, yes, as far as the offense goes and not getting as many targets, but as you mentioned, 45-16. Nobody is complaining when you're winning these games. Absolutely nobody. And I believe that the Jets, with what Joe Douglas has done through the draft and with this younger roster, he has built a team similar to what the Baltimore Ravens can be on defense, and they can win games like that. Now, getting to the playoffs and him getting over that hump, that's a discussion that has to be had. But you can make the Jets the Lamar Ravens, Baltimore Ravens. You can. You can essentially flip that right now by getting that player.
Here's the one thing that I will agree with you on in terms of bringing him here, and that is the fact that the Jets are like the Cleveland Browns, that they are desperate for a quarterback, and they need somebody that is going to excite the locker room, excite the team, and excite the fan base. There is no question about that. The question is, are you willing to give up the compensation? What he would pay? I'm not worried about the money part of it because he'll pay. The question, how much money? Is it 5 years, $250 million? And, all of that guaranteed? Are you going to do that for a guy that, has missed 10 games over the last 2 years?
Yeah, I mean, because it's 5 years and it's not 10 years. And he's 25 years old as we sit here talking about him right now. So, yes, I would absolutely do that. I mean, just think about how many Jet fans would just be thrilled and be running and buying season tickets and buying the jerseys.
There's no question about it.
It would be insane. And this is that organization. There's a lot of organizations out there that are trying to link Lamar Jackson to them, in these articles. And I'm like, they don't need that. That doesn't make sense for them. But the Jets, it does make sense for them in the history of the organization.
So,
yes.
Do you think my player comparison is fair?
I think Josh Allen is a much better player.
I'm not saying, but the player comparison is fair because they're the same age. They played about the same amount of games. They do have, a really good. Both the players have tremendous records as starting quarterbacks.
Yeah, it is. And if I were the Baltimore Ravens, I would be arguing that. I would be saying, look at the Josh Allen. Yes, I would be doing exactly what you did. I do think Josh Allen is a better player, but the issue is, will Lamar Jackson back off of wanting more than Deshaun Watson?
Right.
At any point, will he? Because that's going to be the big deal. Now, if you think Woody Johnson doesn't care and he'll just give him that money, then that's a non-factor.
Woody Johnson wants to win. Look, he's not getting any younger.
Right.
They want to win. They have plenty of money. The salary cap's going to go up to 200. I think they're estimating up to 225 million.
Yeah.
So that cap's going to go up. There's going to be room there. They can move other contracts around. They still have to give other contracts to other players. And, within this contract, within the 5 years of this contract, let's assuming that it's 5 years, Quinnen Williams is the guy to get paid.
Yep.
You're going to end up at some point have to pay Garrett Wilson, assuming that
Gardner, yeah, of course.
Sauce Gardner. Now, it would be interesting to see what Garrett Wilson thinks of this.
I feel like players in the NFL love Lamar Jackson and would be excited.
They do.
If he would. Yes. So I think.
But they also love their numbers. That's why Marquise Brown wanted to leave and go play with, what a mistake he made.
He went to the Arizona Cardinals and just went on a sinking ship.
Which is a mess, yeah. So,
right.
I mean, I understand your argument, and your argument makes 100% sense, especially because of the offensive coordinator and because the open position there. And, if Greg Roman came along with him or somebody like Greg Roman that understood Lamar, and, because one of the reasons Lamar has been so successful is because of the way that Greg Roman has tailored the offense around his unique skill set of being able to run with the ball like a running back.
Yeah.
I mean, he's Barry Sanders, but he's a slender Barry Sanders.
Right. And let's not forget, last year, the New York Jets were about to pull off a trade and send a lot of compensation and give a lot of money to Tyreek Hill. So it is in their mind that they would do something like that.
There is no question in my mind that if they decided to do that, it would just ignite the fan base. They would be over the moon. There's no question because this player is in the midst of his prime.
But you wouldn't do it at the end of the day.
I would wonder about the other players that he's playing with, the wide receivers here.
Yeah.
And whether or not they would be happy. And maybe they wouldn't be happy, so maybe you then up and trading some of those guys and bringing in, guys like Slayton and Isaiah Hodgins, guys that you're not paying a lot of money to.
Yeah, exactly.
But I know one thing, and we've seen this through this year. Elijah Moore's frustrated. He's not getting his touches.
Yeah.
And Garrett Wilson frustrated because there were games where he was wide open and he wasn't getting hit or the ball wasn't being thrown to them. And I know that they all look at the stats. I know they all compare themselves to the high-end wide receivers in the league. And they're all wondering why they're not getting the ball thrown to them. Believe you me, they all know it. So the question would be, how does that impact that room? And would those guys want him here?
Well, unless you're going to find me a better option than Lamar Jackson in this offseason, then they got nothing to complain about.
Like, to me, this is really the question of the moment for the New York Jets. What are they doing at their quarterback position? If they bring in Lamar, then and maybe you're happy about this, and maybe other Jet fans will be happy about this. But if they bring in Lamar, that means Zach Wilson is gone. Because he's not running this offense.
Of course. That would be the end of it.
You can't have, Zach in his mind, I'm sure, still thinks of himself as a number one quarterback. You heard what he said on Getaway Day.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I'm going to make it a holy hell for the guy that they bring in here behind me, thinking that Mike White and Joe Flacco, I guess, are gone. So, right. he made that declaration that day.
Yeah, he
did.
Like,
who are you to be making declarations like this? Just shut up, keep your head down, and get the hell out of here.
And you know what? He might be getting the hell out of here. And I think that the Jets should be doing everything they can to get Lamar Jackson if it does break down with the Baltimore Ravens.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.